Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of Not My 10 Minute Moan Live, because they normally go on for longer. And thanks for tuning in. We're going on 3 platforms just now: YouTube, Twitter X, and Facebook. And we've also got Basil from Twitter, who's streaming live on his. So, hello everybody, and how are you, Basil?
Yeah, not bad, mate. How are you?
Aye, I've had worse days. Had a good wee night last night out and about the streets of Glasgow at a protest, and some great feedback on that today. So,
Good.
uh, been invited on to GB News later on this afternoon to talk about the protest in Glasgow. So looking forward to that. That'll be good fun. And I've got a great guest agreed to come on and do a podcast with me. A guy, I'd heard him on a space, well enough, Shuab, who's a immigrant Muslim, been treated a
Yeah.
bit bad for standing up, being concerned about the things that we're all concerned about. So he's going to come on and do a podcast with me, try and get a wee half hour with him at some point this afternoon and maybe put that out before tonight as well. So I've got a busy day and we're hard at it. But this story that I want to discuss, were you aware of it, Basil?
No, I wasn't. No, go on. Tell me what's happened.
Right, so University of Glasgow, which is one of the biggest, most famous buildings in Glasgow. Many people think that a J.K. Rowling based Hogwarts on the architecture of it. It's been attacked and vandalised by pro-Palestinian groups, which I'm losing the plot with this nonsense, right? I don't see how attacking a building such as that proves anything, gains any support, or actually gets to do what you want to do, and that's end a war in Palestine. That you kind of tell us you want, but I'm not really buying into that either. I kind of think they would quite like a war in Palestine if the other team were winning. It's
Yeah.
like Israel have that well under control, and they get the upper hand in that fight. But if it was the other way about, they probably wouldn't be that bothered about ending the war in Palestine. So that's where I think these people's heads are, and I just think, looking through, how do you get up in the morning and think, I'm going to go and attack with vandalism? Beautiful building in Glasgow, because that'll get my story out. It won't. It'll put people off you. And I think the people that go to Glasgow University are probably a lot of their future generation of protesters. So I kind of don't know who they're trying to impress here at all. And oddly enough, the first people
Themselves.
Aye. The
Very
first
best.
people I seen talking about it was the National newspaper, which is, for anybody who's not in Scotland, that's obviously an independent slogan publication. So the fact they were highlighting this, I found, like, tells you how bizarre it is, because they normally side with the people that are saying free Palestine and stuff. So they've reported on it. I'll just go through quickly what they're saying about it, and then we can maybe have a wee chat about it. So pictures from the institution on this morning, show red paint daubed onto buildings and signage with slogans including Free Palestine and Divest Now, which I don't really know what that means. Numerous red triangle symbols, which are associated with the Palestine flag, are also painted onto the building. It's unclear who is behind the action, though student protesters have targeted Glasgow University buildings in the past. In November, the university sparked anger amongst staff and students after its ruling court opted to continue investing in armed firms supplying Israel despite overwhelming opposition in the survey response. Figures included at the end of the email seen by the National made clear that around 2,400 people responded to the survey, 500 staff and 1,900 students, and that most staff, 81%, and students, 86%, respondents were in favour of the investment. The email said, however, court accepted the evidence of senior managers that the university should not require fund managers to disinvest. Firstly, because this couldn't be interpreted as a signal that the university was opposed to the existence of the UK defence sector, and secondly, in recognition of the university's ongoing research relationships with a range of firms active in this area. Glasgow University's endowment fund was worth £262 million at the end of July 2024. The email said a publicly available list of investments from 2023 included shares in weapons firms linked to Israel, such as BAE Systems, Lockheed Martin, and Thales. Analysis of the 2023 list suggests that the total sum of shares in defence companies held by Glasgow University is £3.1 million. However, firms like Boeing manufacture both missiles and commercial jets, meaning funding may not directly be invested into weaponry. So what they're suggesting is that it's somehow linked to all of this. And one thing that I find incredible out of the survey that they've done was that 81% of the staff, but 86% of the students responded in favour of the investment. So that kind of shows that the tutors at this college and the staff at this college are doing a fantastic job to make people think the same as them, because they're at 81% and the people that they're influencing, the students, are at 86%. So it's no wonder to me that we get, a lot of students who seem very similar-minded, because the people running these institutions are the exact same. But the thing that really shocked me about this today is it's either outsiders attacking the university for things like perceived investment into genocide, etc., or it's insiders, people at the university destroying the very university that they proclaim to love and cherish. And I'm not sure which one of those is worse in my mind. What's your opinion on that, Paz?
Well, I just saw that. Look, I saw that comment from Tech Reality saying, "Can anyone tell me why I should care about Palestine and this crap in Glasgow? I wish they would just protest about the unjust and corrupt legal system we have here that jails innocent people." Right, on the jailing innocent people, I take your point. However, on the why you should care about this Palestine crap in Glasgow, it's because the people who, wherever you stand on the issue of Israel and Palestine, is largely irrelevant to me, okay? The way I look at the situation is what I tend to find is that whenever you talk to people about this, in particular the people who are at these protests and who daub Glasgow University in paint, they don't know their history, right? What they're getting their information from is far left organizations, such as like Novara Media and stuff like that, right? And the reason why you should care about it is because this is just the latest expression, but all these things are linked. So if you talk about, people who want communism in the United Kingdom, people who love Marxism, people who want LGBTQIA+2 or whatever it is in your schools, people who have broke down the social fabric, people who want open borders, these things are all linked. And this is just the most outrageous one at the moment. So if there wasn't the Palestine protests going on, and there wasn't that issue going on, they would have another issue they would pick. But these very same people are being indoctrinated across our universities, across our education sector, to become the next foot soldiers that have ruined this country. The people who are in charge of us, and you think, why do they all support open borders? Why do they all support the transgender nonsense and all that sort of stuff? It's all linked together. So again, fighting against this stuff in our own country, the indoctrination of our youth, will benefit all of us in the long term.
Yeah, and I think the reason that I sort of picked this out to do something about, or to talk about on a live, was see this recent attack, and I think I was travelling that day, so I didn't do a video about it, into the Air Force Base. It's just, wait, just stop. Just absolutely stop. And people crying out saying, they're really disgusted now that this group who committed, and I think, I agree with the statement, they have, by attacking a Royal Air Force base, they have committed an act of terrorism.
Absolutely.
And now they've been described as a terror group, and people are outraged by this. You think, well, what society is it normal for the people to accept any group from within that country going into an armed services establishment?
What happens if one of those got shot? What if he saw an intruder on the base and shot them?
That's a shame.
Yeah,
that's how much I would have thought. Because if you weren't pretending to be some sort of eco warrior type, virtual signal,
who knows what they're there to do? Yeah.
What? Sorry.
Who knows what they're there to do?
Well, yeah. So if you were any other type of person and you broke into that place, you should be shot.
Yeah.
And the fact that they weren't, I'm actually a bit disappointed, if I'm perfectly honest, because it shows that we've got a real lack of security at our armed forces bases. Absolutely. That's frightening. Yeah. And if people can do it with a spray can, people can do it with ammunition or bombs or whatever.
And they have done that to munitions depots. They've actually used things to bring them to a halt. They've damaged them. They've destroyed the infrastructure and stuff. And so it would be no different on it to think they would do the same to a military base. On another point about this, though, Craig, specifically on Glasgow University, looking at that building, right? Again, that's a beautiful building, right? That's a beautiful historic. The architecture is fantastic. It's one of those buildings that people go, we'll never knock that building down because it's so bloody damn beautiful, right? And historic. And again, the fact that they targeted that with spray paint goes to show just a lack of honor and respect, I would say, for our not just our institutions, but for the history and the fabric of this nation. And again, this goes to the deeper problem of these people are being brought up to be what they class as sort of like rebels or whatever, down with the establishment. But the truth of the matter is that they've been manipulated by far left agitators who have infiltrated our education system and pump this rubbish out all the time. It's bad at every university. If you look at the way in which the faculty members of universities have changed over the last 60 years, it used to be like roughly half, like, conservative to sort of liberal, and now it's all left wing. They're all like into all this stuff, right? And again, you cannot get your history from Instagram. Go and there's videos, right? You don't have to go and speak to them yourself. Go and just look at the videos of people being interviewed at these pro-Palestine marches. They haven't got a clue about the history of the region, what's going on right now, and also they don't know what it's like to live in a war zone. Those people, whether you're in Palestine or Israel, are constantly under threat of death, right? Because it's such a horrible area to live where people, for various reasons, will never get along. So ultimately, what you know is when you pick a side on this and say, I'm pinning my flag to the mast, you better damn well know what you're supporting. And I guarantee you a lot of these people wouldn't last one day in the place that they're supporting.
Yeah, and there was a thing here. Yeah, this is a great point. Transit Fran, I think, has done more of my life than even me. It seems sometimes one of the people see all the time. So thanks for your support there, Transit Fran. And makes a great point. How can a rector in Glasgow be Palestinian? I actually forgot about that. I think they voted him in, certainly in the last 4 months. And the guy who is the now rector, there was some people complaining that he had peculiar ties to some nasty people in the world. Is probably the nicest way of saying it. And we now see this pro-Palestinian destruction of that building. Will the rector of that famous institution stand up and say this is bad?
Well, no. he won't. He will play the fence, sit and roll, and he'll say, this is just another thing that we've had to sacrifice for the real cause, which is the cause of Palestine. I mean, ultimately, that's why we have too many people in this country, and this is MPs in Parliament, MSPs in Holyrood as well, who bring this issue up when it's got nothing to do with them. They don't know what they're talking about, but ultimately they've picked a side. They have a team, and you see, I mean, Humza Yousaf, for example, right, one of possibly the most divisive politicians in Scotland's history, right? And he always on the pro-Palestinian side. Same with Anas Sarwar. And again, you look at the communities that come out of this stuff, and it's like, this is tribalism. This is tribalism in action, right? And, again, it's been brought to our shores by mass immigration. It's just another thing we've imported from the rest of the world that we didn't have to have in the first place.
So the thing that happened, the Air Force Base, Basil, what was your opinion and views on that?
Well, so the Air Force Base, look, first off, it breaks my heart to see the British military doing so badly, right? I don't approve of this government. I didn't approve of the last government, and neither of them got my votes. But the truth of the matter is that I genuinely worry when I see essentially college kids breaking into Air Force bases. I mean, that's a worry to me, right? Listen, I understand people might be able to break in. At the end of the day, we're not actually at war or anything right now, right, officially. And I understand they might be breaking, but not to be apprehended, not for anyone to notice. This concerns me. Now, look, if we were on a war footing, would things be different? Of course they would be, right? And I've got no doubt that the British military would up its game and get everything sorted. But the truth of the matter is, It's still a worry. It's still not nice to see. It's not nice to see the disrespect to our armed forces that is shown by these people. It's not nice to see the armed forces get embarrassed in public by this happening on one of their bases. And I'm sure, some heads will roll for it. So ultimately, all round, I think everybody lost out because, the people like me and you, who are true British patriots, felt sort of a bit of shame and a little bit embarrassed and felt like we should be doing better. The Palestine Action Group, they got prescribed, and so they're now banned, and the people involved are getting investigated for multiple police matters and all the rest of it. Ultimately, again, I think nobody won. And I just think that this nonsense that is injected into our society, that you see the mass rape of little girls across this country, and then you see Palestine marches and the difference with people that turn up to these events, and you see where all of the propaganda gets focused. If we had a mainstream media that bothered to report on the real issues that affect our country more than the issues that were affecting other countries, hopefully you would see a different population. But unfortunately, they don't. People buy this stuff, and we have to deal with the fallout of it.
Yeah, it's pretty bonkers. We mentioned there that they get out and pick up the placards and banners almost every other day, as it seems. And I was down in Manchester. It was either late April, early May, and the theme of the rally that I was asked to talk at was protect our children.
Mm-hmm.
And the left turned up to counter protest that.
Of course they did.
And you just look at them and you think, do you actually know what you're here for? Yeah. Well, because they get told it's a far right racist rally that was happening. So they automatically grab a placard and off they pop on a Saturday morning. But you actually just look at them and think, and I think that's how I sort of started my speech. I walked around and faced them and I went, we're actually here because we want our kids to be safe. Mm-hmm. And you're counter-protesting that.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Trump's just weighed in on this, by the way. I'm literally just breaking news there. And am I allowed to swear on this? Because he swore, if I want to quote him. He went, Trump was asked about Israel and Iran, and he said they've been fighting so long, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. That's what Trump said on camera. But, right, do you know what? He makes a point, because at the end of the day, right, wherever you stand, whichever side you're on, right, they're not going away, right? Israel. I was actually arguing with someone last night about this, a good friend of ours, right? And I was saying to him, Israel's not going anywhere, right? And I don't particularly want it to go anywhere either, right? Because the outfall, that would be horrendous, right? So these two sides are going to be in a deathlock match until someone turns up who's bigger than both of them, such as the Americans, and says, settle down the areas, right? This idea, when people talk about, the two-state solution, look, let me just break it down for you, right? Anybody, any politician that says, I support a two-state solution, what they are saying is, I don't want to answer that question. Because the truth of the matter is, the two-state solution died at the Camp David Accords back in 2001, right? That was the last chance they had that chance to do that, right? From then on out, it was going to be one side wins or the other, right? There ain't going to be no living in peace and harmony alongside each other. They've tried it. It ain't going to work, right? So you can make a choice as a British citizen. You can either get yourself invested in this and actually do it and go, right, I'm going to pick a side and I'm going to change my life and my views and my friends and all the rest of it over a conflict that is, 1,000 miles away or whatever, and has got literally nothing to do with you right now. Or you can turn around and say, actually, I'm going to stay out of it and just focus on what's going in our own country. And personally, I try my best to do the latter, because I really think we've got enough problems as it is to get on with, not least of which is idiots believing this kind of propaganda from, pro-Palestine people.
Yeah, get that. What else is happening today then, Basil?
Oh, well, did you hear about the police are now giving a PowerPoint presentation to migrants, telling them, please stop abusing and harassing women in the streets?
I've seen you posting that. In my opinion, and that is, anybody who we invite to our country that needs to be reminded of that shouldn't be in our country.
No, I think, again, this is a case of, there was a clip a few years ago that went viral in Finland. I don't know if anyone remembers it. There was a group of women, they do like a dance, don't touch me here sort of thing dance. And they were meant to do that for migrants. Again, this is liberal, stupid, naive people sat there thinking migrants coming here are going to be, we'll give them a PowerPoint presentation and tell them, so just so they know, Kinnan Park's absolutely right, just deport them. The truth of the matter is, we should have a long time ago declared a national emergency, shut shut the borders, deported all of the illegal migrants that we had here, and be rounding them up non-stop. It's just more embarrassment for our country, unfortunately.
Yeah. Just before I go into questions, Basil, you missed John Watts described it as the male Loose Women show yesterday. You know, I've been trying to get Kev to do one of these with just me and Kev.
Yeah.
So that's what I planned to do yesterday. So yesterday afternoon, set up a live, half an hour early, told everybody it was me and Kev. I just wanted to have a laugh with Kev, to be honest with you. You know, replicate what we do on the X Spaces when the two is in the same room. And just before I was just setting it up, and John Watt had messaged me about something, and I messaged him back a link, and I went, mate, I'm just going on to live if you want to come on. So he hit the link thinking it was to watch the live, and ended up in the live, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it started off with the three of us, and then Alex Kearney came into the comments, and he started sending me a link, right? So sent him a link, and he was driving his van at the time, and he's just obviously got his phone on his windscreen holder. He's hit join, and he's came in, and I don't know what he went like that. All right, Tommy. Is that all right, Craig? All right, Kev? All right, Tommy? To John, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? He thought it was Tommy Robinson. We had the space. It was John Watt. Like, but it was absolutely cute. I've been on for 2 hours, and this won't go on for 2 hours because I can't go on for 2 hours because I'm going on to GB News and I need to get prepped for that. But what a live it was! But it was particularly bedlam yesterday, so that was good fun, and I hope the people who are in today that watched it enjoyed it. But the comments are just mental. I'm putting up on the screen stuff that was sent in at 4:08, and it's almost 4:15. So I'm never going to get through all of them.
Can I pick out a comment that's really annoys me, Craig, before you start?
Go on in.
Right, there's a guy called Nobby Noble, right? And Nobby Noble is one of the worst people I hate the most, right? Because listen, I'm British, right? And I'm a proud British unionist, right? I hate I don't like it when people want to break this country up. But you know what? I hate even no, it's not even that comment, it's the one like later. I hate even more separatists that are not Scottish or Welsh or whatever. They're from a county, right? And Nobby Noble's got the county of Yorkshire flag up, right? And he says only 17% of our English Isle population identify as being UK British terrorists. We, the 87%, identify as being English, Irish, Welsh, Cornish. Right, first off, Nobby, right? Yorkshire ain't going independent, right? Let's just get that one out the way first. I've met the Yorkshire Party people. They're nut jobs. They're nut jobs, right? But also, your maths, mate, as well. How can you say 17% is one and 87% is other? That's more than 100%, right? So, again, Cornish, right, listen, in this order, right? Cornish separatists, the worst. Yorkshire separatists, the worst, right? And then it goes down from there. They're terrible people. Don't listen. No, I'm only joking. Listen, if anyone wants to separate from the United Kingdom, keep on rattling on. It ain't going to happen.
I pulled aside a couple of comments, right? And the one guy I need to pay a bit of respect to is Kevin Hawthorne. Again, Kettering, I think he's probably been in about half. He may have been in more, but I've seen his comments in about half the lives I've ever done. And I think, is it 5 years behind? Where is Florida? 5 years behind, 6 years behind. So it's late morning for him. So thanks very much for tuning in again, Kevin. I'd love to know why a guy from Lakeland in Florida enjoys coming into these lives. I'm very curious. I'm very thankful you are here and humbled that you are. I think it'd be fascinating to find out why. So he drops a wee note. Somebody asked Stephen Rennie, Craig, was the building vandalised during the day or overnight? I believe it was during today, so broad daylight. And Fee's Shed, again, somebody that's names keeps popping up. Thanks, Fee, for coming in all the time. Those idiots were able to get into the Bryce Norton, but if one of those innocent auditors are flying a drone over public spaces as per the CAA, they have 5 plod harassing them. That's a very good point, actually. Some of these guys that do these auditing and stuff, I quite like watching their videos. And most of them, you can understand why they're doing it. And some of them, but I just think they're proper twats. And they're actually just going in to get a response. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the responses they get is absolutely ridiculous. But there's a small part of that community that just do my nothing. They're just like, well, nobody would think it's acceptable, whether it's legal or illegal, to stand at the back of a police station and video every member of staff getting in. Because one, there's people working there that are civilians, and people that just hate the cops might think they're a cop and treat them poorly when they're not at their work. And two, make people in there that are undercover cops, that they're identified as going into the cop station, so people think, well, either A, they're a cop, or B, they're a tout. So when they go into the situations that they're trying to, work. So I think the auditors, although I do enjoy a lot of them, and probably the majority of them, I just think some of them are a bit out there. So that's me sort of finished my moan for the day. And you want to add to that, Basil?
Yeah, just we I want to see these new. I can't wait till the day that me and Craig are out of business from talking about this stuff. And if the country's ran well and we've got nothing to talk about, that would be really nice. But until then, I will keep saying that Yorkshire will not be going independent anytime soon.
Are you sure?
I'm positive, mate. Do you know what, right? I lived in Yorkshire for 10 years. Actually, no, technically I lived in there longer. I lived in Yorkshire 10 years the second time. First part of my life, I was there, I think it was like 11 years. So most of my life I've actually lived in Yorkshire, even though I'm not from there, from the northeast. And the truth is, Yorkshire people are brilliant, right? They're brilliant beyond belief, right? But when you meet like everywhere, there's hardcore people who just take things just a little bit too far, right? And ultimately, like I say, looking at the demographics of West Yorkshire, I'm not sure you'll want to go independent, right? Because you might be a minority in your own country very soon. So there we go.
Last night's video, did you watch it?
Which one was this? The protest. Yes, I did. Yeah, it was great. Yeah. How did that go anyway? Did you enjoy it?
Aye. And for those that have not watched it or don't have any concept of what I've done, there was a protest in part of Glasgow called Royston, because there's a building which is part of the school ground, primary school grounds, that has been bought over by a foreign gentleman, and the fear is that he's going to turn it into an asylum refuge type place. And the answers that the people on the ground have been getting have not been very good. So they're all over it. So yesterday, there were about 4 or 5 different people contacted me to say there was this protest in Royston. Now, Royston, for those who don't know it, was traditionally, and still is, very Irish type, ex-immigrants came over here, and the generations are now still see themselves as Irish. Football up here is crazy, predominantly Celtic support the area. Probably most of them want an independent Scotland. I'm a unionist. Probably most of them are Roman Catholics. I'm a Protestant. I'm a monarchist. They're probably majority of them Republicans. So not the sort of place that I would normally frequent. And I went. And I was welcomed really, really well, because the thing that we've all got in common is we're kind of concerned about the safety of our own. We're kind of concerned about the level of immigration and the level of fake asylum seekers we see in our communities just now. And I was a wee bit apprehensive, bear in mind, I'm just back for a trip to Cali for 2 days where I wandered about Cali myself. So, I'm no shy, but Royston's no a place that I would normally frequent. And the first thing I got was greeted with a guy. Love the channel, Craig. Watch all your videos. Really support what you're doing. By the way, I kick with the other foot, which is code in Glasgow for I don't support the same team as you. And that happened regular through the thing. It was great. I was never at any time did I feel not welcome. Everybody I spoke to was great with me. Now, listen, there might have been people in that crowd that thought, I don't like that guy. That's fine. That's acceptable. But nobody made me feel unwelcome. And that's kind of what GB News, Martin Dobney, sent a message today, said this video event is similar to what we're seeing in Northern Ireland, where it doesn't matter what community you're from, we've got this common thing. So that's kind of what he's invited me on to talk about. So we'll see how that goes. And I hope it goes as well as the last one, that the last time I was on. So thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. You any cheerios to say before I log off, Basil?
No, well, just thanks everyone who listened in again, and keep supporting Craig. And thank you very much. See you all again soon.
Thank you. I've got left a wee bit for those who have missed it, a wee 2 minutes. Once we end this live, it'll be an outro, just about some of the coverage from Cali for anybody that's not seen that. So if you enjoy this, click a thumbs up. It'll be out again within about 10-15 minutes. YouTube repackage it and put it out as a standalone video. If you click like, share, comment on that again, your comments will disappear, so they're only on in the live stream. If you've not already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell. The notification bell is important. When I put a video out, you will not get an instant notification that I've put a video out. It'll come at some point that day. But when I do a live, you'll get an instant notification if you enjoy the live. So please do that. The most important thing of all, unless you're the type of cretinous person that's more interested in things happening thousands of miles away in a different continent and think it's acceptable to break into our armed forces bases to try and make a point or attack with vandalism one of the most important, historic and beautiful buildings in my town of Glasgow, then not you, but everyone else. Have a great day. Cheery bye now.